the Raiders trading Darren Waller to the Giants.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama with the Raiders. So apparently, Josh McDaniels is at the combine, talking to people, and he's like, "Yeah, Darren Waller's getting married." And then Darren Waller was like, "Excuse me? You weren't supposed to tell anyone that." Like, Darren Waller wanted to get married, didn't want it to be like public information. Josh McDaniels leaks that to the media. Derek Darren Waller apparently pissed off. He has like a little spat with Josh McDaniels. So Josh McDaniels trades one of his best weapons on offense. He's gone. Devontae Adams, not happy with the Jimmy G signing. Josh Jacobs, not happy with Darren Waller leaving. So already there's so much chaos going on where this is what happens when you hire a guy you're too poor to fire to run your franchise. It's like it's already been an absolute disaster. You're bringing in Jacoby Myers.
Philip Dorsett.
Why? Philip Dorsett, like all these guys who used to coach with the Patriots, and then Jimmy Garoppolo. And then it came out recently that Tom Brady used to bully Josh McDaniels on the sideline.
I
And
didn't
he's
hear
like,
about this.
Josh McDaniels didn't do anything for the offense. Basically, Tom Brady would bully him and like would yell at him and constantly chew him out on the sideline. And then all of this boils over to everyone being like, yep, Josh McDaniels is the super dork we all thought he is, and it's never going to work as a head coach. And I always said this too. I was like, why do the Colts want to hire him? I'm like, I don't get why Josh McDaniels is always thrown up there, because I'm like, you have to be pretty fucking careful when you have Tom Brady as your quarterback and you're like, yeah, this guy should be a coordinator. I'm like, really? Should he be a coordinator? Because for me, whenever Josh McDaniels was calling the plays, offense was a little bit shaky. When Tom Brady would audible out of it, offense looked pretty good. So I'm like, I can't trust Josh McDaniels being a great head coach because communication errors, Tom Brady controlling the offense, and then clearly he can't manage personalities in the locker room with this Darren Waller situation.
Well, it's been a disaster so far in Oakland. I mean, look at the roster that they had last year. They had
Yeah.
Max Crosby and Chandler Jones on one side. On the other side, they had Devontae Adams, best receiver in the league, Hunter Renfrow, great slot receiver, Darren Waller, one of the best tight ends, and,
Yeah.
and Derek Carr, who you saw last year prior to that was Rich Bisaccia, have a great run, win a playoff game. So it's like, well, pretty much a playoff game with the Chargers game at least.
Yeah.
And so you come back in there and you guys are a complete disaster. You guys blow nothing but 10-point leads. You had a big lead against the Chiefs. You blew that. You blew a massive lead against the Colts of all teams. The only win that Jeff Saturday will ever have as a head coach in the NFL is against you. So it's
Josh
been a
McDaniels,
complete
yeah.
shit show. And the reason why you still have a job is not because you're qualified for it or not because you've earned the right to keep your job, but because the son of Al Davis, Mark Davis, cannot afford to fire you. That's a
Yeah.
problem that you would have had in the 60s with the NFL. But nowadays, with TV contracts, there's no reason why they should not be able to afford firing him.
Yeah.
And now, here we are with the Raiders. They trade Darren Waller for a third-round pick to the Giants. What are your thoughts on this move?
For Darren Waller and them being too poor to fire Josh McDaniels, for me, debunks the whole small loan of $1 million narrative. Like, even if you're given an exuberant amount of money and assets, like an NFL team passed down to you, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to grow it into a franchise. And we're seeing Mark Davis being currently broke. He wasn't able to elevate the Raiders, had to move them in desperation to Vegas where they're giving away tickets. So this is kind of just a culmination of him not being able to fire Josh McDaniels. However, I do like it for the Raiders because Darren Waller overall, I feel like he's been banged up the past few years. The past 3 years, he's gotten injured during the season, and part of the reason why they were struggling in the middle of the season was Darren Waller's one of Derek Carr's go-to guys on third down, and he's one of the guys who can open up the middle, make you really have to draw help inside, and then that opens it up for Renfrow and Devontae Adams with how great they are outside, and then it helps open up the run games. But I like the move for both teams. I feel like a third round pick is fair, especially with his injuries. And for me, I don't like you're getting Darren Waller when you let Evan Ingram walk for 1 year's $8 million, who I feel like is a better asset to the Jags than Darren Waller will be to the Giants. So
Well, it depends on if we get the Darren Waller of old, because since 2020, he's been hurt a lot. But if he can return to 2019 form,
yeah,
it'll be a steal. But at the same time, he's been banged up. He's 30, and we're talking about somebody who regained how he was when he was 26.
yeah.
That's a big ask to ask for him. As far for the Giants, it's like this is a move they had to make. They had to make a big splash. As far as I'm concerned, the Packers last year should have made this move like they were supposed to. They're supposed to get him for a fourth rounder, and they didn't do it for whatever
Why didn't
reason.
they just pick him up in the Devontae Adams trade? You would think they would get some extra help.
Oh, we're going to talk about the Packers in depth and everything that's wrong with them, but for the Giants, I think Darren Waller. Feel like that's Daniel Jones' bread and butter.
Mhm.
I feel like he's going to really love him fantasy wise. If he can stay healthy, he'll be a really nice fantasy option. And he's really their only main weapon outside of Darius Slayton. So for the Giants, it's like, all right, cool. And for the Raiders, I mean, this is Foster Moreau's tight end position to lose, right? I mean, how good is Foster Moreau now? We're going to figure it out. And I don't know. They also signed OJ Howard. So
Yeah.
you replace Darren Waller with OJ Howard. You replace Derek Carr with Jimmy G. It's like, what direction are you going in, Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders have kind of been an absolute disaster. Franchise tagging Josh Jacobs, who could decide to hold out in the offseason and add even more drama. So this is just getting started because Devontae Adams, I don't think he's in love with the whole Jimmy Garoppolo signing. He went there to play with Derek Carr. Now Derek Carr's gone. And
Right.
then Darren Waller isn't there. But I feel like for the Giants, you had to make a splash for Darren Waller, but you're giving up a third round pick for a guy you can't rely on to stay on the field. And do I think he's going to be there when it matters? Unfortunately, no. So I
I
do
hope
think that
so.
this is a good, like, I hope to see him there, but like when you're 30 and injuries have been an issue, and then you've had substance abuse issues in the past that you're working through, like, I want to see him turn it around and play a full season. But again, Darren Waller, pass catching tight end, not a great blocker either. So it's like you're adding that to an offensive line needy team. Daniel Jones had to get the ball out quick, using his running ability to make up for some of the deficiencies of the offensive line. So still a long way to go. I feel like for the Giants, you have to get two really good receivers still, I feel like.
They got to draft him. And they really, since Odell, they have not done a great job of drafting receivers.